We'll now begin our panel on the CEE tech point of view. Please welcome to the stage an entrepreneur and venture capital investor focused on technology ventures in Turkey and CEE since 2006. He is currently a partner at EarlyBird Venture Capital, which currently manages around $1 billion and has backed companies that have become leading innovators in business and technology and resulted in large-scale IPOs and trade sales. Welcome our moderator, Mr. Cem Sertoglu.
Are you sure? Because if I have to get up during judging.
Is it on? Yeah, it's on. Good afternoon, everyone. To me, CEE is in the heart of Webit from the beginning, so I'm actually very pleased to welcome a panel very soon on the Central and Eastern Europe from a venture capitalist perspective. But I'll tell you a little bit about what I think about when, as a venture capitalist, when I think about the VC landscape in Central and Eastern Europe. To me, the most interesting things in the region is, first of all, it's a high-growth region. I think if you read daily news, the general comings and goings of daily press seems to be diluting this fact, but this region is growing faster than Eurozone, about 2 times faster, and is extremely entrepreneurial. And these are entrepreneurs by choice, through opportunity. They see opportunities and start companies. The second characteristic of CEE to me is the talent pool, which in my opinion is probably the most important ingredient in an attractive venture capital landscape. And when we look at Eastern Europe, we see a very strong base of science and technology education legacy, and also fairly reasonable labor costs. So when you compare it to Silicon Valley or London or Berlin, we see that the cost of starting a technology business, a high-impact technology business, is actually lower significantly. And the third factor is that it's a market that's looking for capital, looking for venture capital. It's severely underfunded when you compare it to other markets, even with parts of Asia in sort of similar levels of development. And then finally, the common question we get is that, so what? Is this a region that creates large, sustainable companies? And fortunately, when you look at the data, you do see that this is a region that is now proven to create large exits and large companies, and therefore return significant amounts of capital to the investors in the region, like myself. So with that in the background, I'd like to invite the panel, all of whom are investors in the region. If I can have the panel join us. Hello, Ondrej. How are you? Hi, Tomasz. Bakhrom. Rahul.
Is there enough chairs? Doesn't look like it.
Lee. And Sasha.
It's a lot of people.
Okay, more chairs.
We need some more chairs.
Okay, we'll stay.
2 more chairs.
That's all right.
This is like...
So everybody's complaining about the lack of venture capital in the region, and look at the stage. We have a set of investors and not enough chairs.
Yeah, I don't know if we're supposed to be bidding on chairs or what's going on. There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a big panel.
I'll go ahead by just briefly introducing the panel to you. First is Lee Clancy from Naspers e-commerce. He heads up product and mobile strategy there as a senior vice president. We have Rahul Sood, the general manager and partner at Microsoft Ventures. We have Bakhrom Ibragimov, operations leader at EBRD. We have Tomasz Czechowicz, who's the managing partner and chief investment officer at MCI, which is one of the investors in the region. Sasha Galitsky, we have with Almaz Capital, who's also a Skolkovo board member, and Ondrej Bartos from Credo Ventures. He's a partner at Credo. So thank you for joining me. Let's start with a general question. We're all obviously excited and bullish on the Central and Eastern Europe market. Can each of you just sort of summarize with a sentence or two why that is the case? What's attractive to you in the region? Lee, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, you know, Naspers, we have a very strong presence in Central and Eastern Europe with typically dominant e-commerce companies in the major markets in the region. And in almost all cases, we see that there is still a big divide between the overall internet usage of consumers in that market compared to the actual percentage of them that are transacting e-commerce online. And then you throw mobile into the mix there, where we're seeing fairly solid smartphone penetration in a lot of these markets, with plenty of upside there as well. So from our perspective, there's clearly a big opportunity there.
For us, for Microsoft Ventures, we have sort of magnet cities that we've set up where we draw really great startups and work with great startups from around the world. To be honest with you, I would say that we're global, so we look around at all sorts of places for interesting entrepreneurs and startup activity. I don't really know, I'm still sort of not sure what to make of Turkey, for example. When I think of being a destination, whether it's part of the Middle East or whether it's part of Europe, it's kind of like an interesting sort of mix. The bottom line is we have a really big investment in Israel, and we feel we need to do something bigger in the greater Middle East, and we're not sure what that is yet. So, yeah.
Well, we focused on Central Eastern Europe, Turkey, and Northern Africa, and we see there are many tailwinds in the market. Obviously, the continuous growth of the middle of the internet penetration, and obviously the other thing that excites us that there is also a change in the people values, right? So people are more focused on the open global markets, and a lot of change together with the tailwinds and the macroeconomic tailwinds, we believe create interesting opportunities.
Yes. We are €500 million private equity group specializing in so-called digital-related investments. Probably the oldest one here, doing digital investments since '98. We focus on five regions, which is Germany, Central Eastern Europe, Russia, and Turkey. There are different things which we like in all these regions. We like the size of the consumer market in Russia. We like the economic growth in Turkey versus the political risk which is here. We like the accession effect of Central Eastern Europe because of the EU accession. This region is growing very fast, and also because of the specific structure where you have Poland and Czech really dominating this region, you also could create an interesting value through consolidating these markets. And we like the kind of European champions skills in Germany. That's why like a major five logics which we have for these specific markets. Our typical target is $5 to $10 million per growth fund and about $15 to $20 million per expansion buyout fund. We are looking for 3 to 5 times money return. Yes.
Okay. Personally, I am excited about the region because I am from the region. But as an investor, what gets me excited about the region is just something like last week, I talked to an executive of a US-based corporation, big, publicly traded, which we exited one of our portfolio companies to last year. And he told me we ran an internal benchmark project, and it actually showed up that the Czech engineers in the startup we acquired are 2.3 times more efficient, meaning based on speed and quality. And yet they cost about half of the price, which means that in our market they are actually slightly overpaid. the quality of the talent, meaning engineering, technical talent in the region, is just spectacular. That is something we can actually compete with Silicon Valley with. So that's what makes me believe that there are going to be success stories in this part of the world, and I want to be there.
Okay. Sorry. My story is slightly different. I will say that I was entrepreneur and bring companies from this area for world market and met very many problems. So since broken English, Russian passport, many stuff which will not give me ability to do many stuff which I wanted in global market. So I decided to create fund which will solve the problem to bring people from small IT market, I will say, intellectual market to the global market. So we successfully did this, and we have office in Silicon Valley, and we are covering today mostly former Soviet Union with idea to spread our activity to other region. Idea is very simple. People talented everywhere, first of all, but everybody met the same problem to bring company from small market to big market. I met this problem even when I built my company in Netherlands. So it is, again, you have tiny market from which you would like to attack global market, and you meeting the same problem. So it is where Almaz Capital is bringing. We did very successful exits with our companies. In first fund, we successfully raised second fund. We are growing, we see that opportunity, and we decided, okay, it is more and more talented people which we can find in the region which is related to Eastern Europe as well.
Thank you. This time, most of us, I think, have experience investing outside of the region as well, or have been involved in transactions outside. What do you think are the differences in investing in our region, in Central and Eastern Europe, versus developed markets? And of course, related to that, what do you think some of the challenges are? Maybe we go reverse this time with kick off with Sasha.
I don't see any difference investing anywhere. So since we have in our portfolio companies which we started to invest, the guys sitting in Silicon Valley office, and we spreading them with engineering forces somewhere, or we investing in, let's say, Ukrainian company, a Russian company, or Estonian company. I didn't see any difference, since you always pick up the same criteria, especially if you are doing technological deals. I'm not speaking about marketplace, I'm not speaking about e-commerce, I'm speaking about heavy technology stuff. So from this point of view, you pick up anyway the same criteria when you pick up the company which you invest. Slightly crazy guys, big market, trust, and ability to compete. So
I don't aim to be controversial at any price, but to me, one of the bad things that I'm not happy about with the region is the access to the EU funding. I think that's a bad news for the region. And to follow up on what I said in my previous statement, having the advantage in technology and in talent, the dumb money that's usually flowing from the EU, and I'm mainly talking about the grant scheme, not necessarily the venture capital initiatives, which I would actually consider to be positive. But at the end of the day, I love all of you guys, and I'm happy to compete with you because it's a fair competition. Whereas competing against the EU grants, I do not find fair. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we have a little bit different view on these grants. I think it's stimulating a lot of development in Central and Eastern Europe, and depends on the stage. When you are probably early stage, that's a problem. But in the end, probably there is more company created, and then there's more choice for the later stage investors to select that. It depends on the stage, and also it depends on the countries, but that's probably specifically more for Poland and Czech Republic if you're talking about these grants. Definitely the grants are stimulating a lot of economy in Central and Eastern Europe, which is part of EU. There are differences. There's transparency issue, and the transparency is very different in specific countries. The legal aspect is very important. Like usually you do investment in Russia, you don't do it directly, you do it through the SPV, which is structured somewhere else. Predictability of the process, like especially, I mean, it took us like 1 year to make a transaction in Turkey. It took us 1 month to make a transaction in Germany. And also you can start the process and you will not finish the process. That there are different behaviors, and you need to understand the specifics of every market. Also, for example, in Russia, usually you have a lot of management issues. The quality of management is definitely below what we see in more mature economies. That this is kind of opportunities and threats you need to live with, you need to understand, and you need to address them.
From our experience, well, in terms of differences, if we want to say versus US market, and one of these differences is that I guess there are less serial entrepreneurs. So that's one. The other thing that we see is that in terms of the company focus, I think we always like to see more kind of focus on really relentlessly building the team, really focusing on building the team as opposed to not necessarily technology. And the other point as well, and I think that basically that's a feature of the Europe in general in terms of ability, sales ability, selling products, selling products to the global market. I think that's something that a number of our markets companies can do better, but I guess that applies to Europe in general.
I'll just quickly say, there's a lot of differences in ecosystems. The government might be excited here, but really the government is not supportive unless they start writing checks and creating environments where entrepreneurs can actually build something without worrying about taxes and all the other crap that goes along with it. I looked at a term sheet the other day. A company just shared a term sheet they had for like a $75,000 seed investment, and it was 15 pages long. I mean, how stupid. In the US or in like more developed markets, you'll see a term sheet that's like 1 or 2 pages. It's a no-brainer, real simple, come and get your money and let us help you build your company. And I think the problem is when you have a lack of investment or a lack of awareness, because the talent, you're absolutely correct, the talent is amazing here, right? You're not going to get, that type of, like, unless there's more investors here, unless there's more support from the government, the current investors are taking big risks, so that's why they do these 15-page term sheets. So it's kind of a balance. It has to be entrepreneur-friendly, but it's not. But you need more entrepreneurs, more success stories in order to make it work, and it's not there yet. So I think over time it will be. Keep in mind, Silicon Valley has been around since, 1939 when Bill and Dave started Hewlett-Packard. The ecosystem here is like, 10 years old, so it's still very, it still has a lot of maturing to do. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I'd be curious to hear from folks on the panel here regarding your portfolio companies in the region, I totally agree on the talent, because clearly if you're back in Silicon Valley, almost every other company that I become in contact with, they've got somebody in the Ukraine or Poland or someone building product. What's interesting to me, though, is that across the Naspers portfolio, a lot of the companies we have, it's just a total war for talent, and they cannot find enough folks to feed the needs that they have for growing the organizations. So on the one hand, there's tons of great talent here. On the other hand, and maybe this ties to some of the environmental structural things that Rahul just mentioned, I think it's still hard to feed the needs of how this sector needs to grow across the region. So I think there's still plenty of other, complexities there that need to get worked out.
Right. No, I think in all of these topics, it's one thing to look at numbers in aggregate and make sort of pronouncements, and then when you look at the individual cases in particular investments or portfolio companies, etc., you see that they sometimes vary. Along those lines, you know, we always have a tendency to think of the region as a unit, right? It's the CEE, so money gets allocated here, or you see funds that are covering the region, such as my fund. But do you think, or what do you attribute the differences between some of these countries are related to? I mean, you see, for example, mobile penetration rates can vary dramatically from country to country. You have low penetrated countries like Ukraine versus sort of Czech Republic or Poland, which are on the other end of the spectrum, or even sort of mindsets. We think that the Baltic countries, for example, are showing some characteristics in their ecosystems. Do you see sort of any inherent differences between the countries, etc.? Anyone who would like to comment on that?
I mean, I can share one anecdote from the Nasser's portfolio. We have a company, Allegro, in Poland, the dominant e-commerce player there. And I do hear from that team fairly regularly that there's something still within the Polish consumer as opposed to other, say, Czech or Romania or other countries in the region, where they're still very, very tentative or cautious with regard to transactions on mobile, for example. And that may just be a cultural thing that will work its time out, you know, over time. But I think there still are some interesting differences across the markets. You cannot, it's sort of like almost any region in the world, right? You can't lump all of Latin America together and hope that everything's going to be the same, or, you know, God forbid, Europe in one bucket either. So I think those same differences apply.
I mean, many of us who are active in Central and Eastern Europe do see differences market by market, and there certainly are differences. Poles are better salesmen than Czechs and so forth. On the other hand, most of the region actually comes from a very similar background. We all were, you know, communist countries. We, you know, none of us really saw market economy when we were little or when we were young. So those are the common things that sort of connect the Central and Eastern European countries. And you know, lack of ambition is generally something that we, you know, that we see. And the ability to take risk is really low and so forth. But I think it's more of the common than the different. That's my perspective.
I will say that good things about technology is that we speak everywhere the same language. So we speak C or C++, or Java or something else, and business language also pretty similar. So, and I strongly believe that to become a great entrepreneur, you need to be born a great entrepreneur. You cannot learn. The second one, to become just businessman, it is you can learn, and if you're smart to write code or smart to study physics, you easily learn business books. So from this point of view, I see how growing people in these regions, how they become entrepreneurs, how they can share their knowledge. And I see repeated entrepreneurs right now in Russia, in Ukraine, in Czech. Roman Stanek, what is his possibly right now #3 successful company. So it is what we have common. So, and I think the world is very flat right now. To learn fast, to combine team together. We have now even team which we invested, where guys didn't see each other physically for 3 years before they presented the product. So life different right now.
I mean, if I may, there's one more sort of a common thing that's related to the fact we were communist countries. If you think about it, the last 2 decades or so, in Central and Eastern Europe, we've seen a lot of redistribution of assets because, you know, 25 years ago, everything was owned by the state. So many talented people actually were not creating value, but they were active in the redistribution of the assets. And I truly believe that all this talent will now be available for value creation. Therefore, you know, I see new sexy, great startups. I see new Roman Stanieks ahead. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Thanks. Also, if you look historically, the region's story has been mainly sort of global companies on the enterprise side and local companies on the consumer side. And even though some of those local consumer companies ended up being quite large, like a Yandex or a Mail.ru or an Allegro. Do you think that's going to continue? Do you think this region will only deliver enterprise global successes, or do you think we're going to see consumer successes out of this part of the world as well?
I think you know, the challenge with that is you know, when I look at CEE in general, the first thing I think is fragmentation, right? The market is completely fragmented, and every local ecosystem is different, whether it's language or whether it's, you know, consumer behavior or whatever. And when you're building a consumer company, one of the most important things we do is we force startups to go through customer development. Like we do the most grueling, most brutal, make you cry, want to quit customer development workshop, and it goes for 2 weeks. And if you're not targeting the customer, like if you don't know who you're targeting, you're not asking the right questions, then it's hard to scale or create like a global brand. I think just putting this region aside, I think an example of a good consumer brand that's up and coming from a country that's not historically known for doing so is Xiaomi from China, right? I mean, that's a really interesting company that's just basically come out of nowhere and is disrupting Samsung. Like, you just wouldn't expect that. So it's possible, but I think the fragmentation needs to first stop, and the way you do that is you start to create centers of excellence. And you know, Turkey alone, there's 70 million plus people, and half of the people are under the age of, what, 29. This is like the ultimate place to start an ecosystem if people are willing to take risks and step away from their jobs, and that has to be encouraged. So, yeah.
And I think the environment too. It was interesting. Somebody mentioned to me yesterday that I guess Erdogan had just commented about the iPhone 6, that people shouldn't buy the iPhone 6 or something crazy, and I'm just a little mind-blowing as far as, you know,
I agree with that.
Support the sector. Well, but you know, I think that
I'm not really kidding.
The overall environment there has got to be in place, right?
Yeah.
I guess you know, we see and we will continue to see successful companies, both, you know, in both types of models, both successful companies, large local successful companies in large markets, and the also companies from our region, from CEE region, being successful on a global scale. I think the issue is, you know, to be able to sell in the global market, which first and foremost means, you know, US, because the technology market is the largest there, is that you need to focus that from day one. Right? What you hear a lot of from companies is actually, you know, well, you know, it's not a big deal. I'll hire a great executive in the US, and that will do. Guess what? It never works like this. You know, you would go through the 20 executives and you still not find one. So that DNA going through the global market, you need to develop. You need to develop that from day one. And actually, as a founder, that's kind of vision that you have to carry yourself. It's not something that you can basically say, well, there is a local market, I will focus on it, and I will, you know, complement it with a global vision.
I should say something. Historically, if you look at the performance of the funds, that most of the VC funds which back the global champions, they are not anymore with us. Yes, that basically the survivors were the people which been betting the national champions or regional champions. Yes, that's the last 15 years of history of VC landscape in Central Eastern Europe. Right now, there are probably new funds which are trying to build the global champions from CEE and from Russia and from Turkey. I think there will be more supply of this sort of opportunities, but I will question ability to deliver the commercial returns only if you're trying to build the global champions from Central Eastern Europe, Russia and Turkey, because I think the supply of this type of companies is still relatively poor. We like what's going on in Czech Republic. I think this is the Czech Republic and Baltic states are probably the most attractive regions for this sort of opportunities. I think Russia, we discussed that mostly it's all about bringing Russian teams to Silicon Valley or Western Europe right now. There is not so much going on if you really try to build a global champions domestically from Russia. And I think also Turkish market is more about national champions than the global champions, yes? That I think, again, the venture capital type of work here is more about supporting the national type of success stories than the global type of success stories, that this is very different skill set than what you see in Silicon Valley.
Also, if you take a look, probably investor returns-wise, it's probably been B2C consumer companies that have generated better returns in the region, whereas companies who actually have the global footprint are generally B2B companies, or, you know, although with the antivirus companies it's sort of mixed, but more of the startups who actually made it to a global footprint, most of them would be B2B. So that's pretty much been the distinction up till now, and I believe there's a rational reason for it. So.
And is there anything else that anybody would like to add to the overall topic of the VC environment in Central and Eastern Europe? Anything we didn't touch on?
I'd actually love to ask the panel around payments in general. What are you seeing in your portfolio companies or others around either challenges that some of the companies are having with payments or interesting ways that they're looking at solving those problems in their markets?
I can maybe comment on the Turkish situation. One of the characteristics of the Turkish financial services market, which includes payments, is that there has been, I think, overinvestment, very healthy overinvestment in technology. That it's actually been a difficult market to disrupt from a startup perspective, because the incumbents, I think, are unusually strong compared to other regions that I've experienced.
In our portfolio, the one most common challenge that we see is hiring of executive talent, especially in sales and marketing, which is something that I would not say is a strength of the region. So hiring is the one top challenge.
No, we have, of course, the same, hiring. So actually, VC job, when I did my entrepreneurial career, I didn't recognize that VC job, it is mostly HR. So we're doing a lot of HR job to find the right people, right match, but also challenges, of course, product marketing people is one of the difficult what you need to learn. So Microsoft cycle possibly it is 10 years when people get good knowledge in product management. In some of the companies it can be shorter, longer, but idea it is taking time to understand core product and to become very good product manager. It is the biggest challenge. Of course, the second challenge it depends from companies. When you dive in for security companies, challenge for everybody is the same. Even in Israel, the challenge is how to present yourself as an American company to sell on the American market, since nobody trusts for foreign security. Especially for Russian or Ukrainian company, it is more difficult. Yes. Other challenges is pretty, today, I will not speak about today challenges, but challenges is simple. Yes. So sometimes it is relocation also a challenge. Yes. So it is you need to relocate people from US to European area, and you need to sometimes relocate people from this area to US. Today, it is not so many people would like to be relocated, even from Russia, Ukraine, or other countries, since it is pretty nice life already there. So it is a challenges, but it is common challenges. It is, I don't see the big issue here.
Yes, I think the question was about payments, yes, or was about payments?
Yeah, I was curious to yes, kind of understand what you're hearing.
My colleague, Cezary Smoszewski, who is a managing partner within MCI, he started the bank called Alior, which was one of the best stories in the financial sector, because the bank was built to the 2 billion euro IPO on the Warsaw Stock Exchange 2 years ago, and that we have a very strong expertise in digital payments. We think that this is a big wave right now, because all the digital economy is like 5 years late towards Western Europe. And infrastructure is still not very well developed. And payments, logistics, ad tech is still a lot of to do. I think you did a great job with Nasper's investment into PayU. Yes, we've been observing that. Congratulations. It should be even better deal than Allegro. and right now is a time for the niches for payments. That what's happened in Western Europe, in Germany, in Scandinavia, in the last 5 years, is coming right now to Eastern Europe. We will definitely observe Turkey, because Turkey have a very well-developed financial sector and banking sector, and I think also there could be some innovations in payments. I question the ability of roll out Turkish company to Central Eastern Europe, because the cultural aspect is different. But I think taking the best new models, ideas from here, and trying to duplicate that in Central Eastern Europe probably will make sense. I was discussing this type of ideas yesterday with some of the bankers here, and yeah, I think payments will be definitely the hot topic for the next 2-3 years. But it's again domestic play; it's not a global play. I'm not expecting to see the global new business models arising from Eastern Europe in the payment segment.
Thank you very much. We are over time, and thank you very much to everyone on the panel. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're in a rush.